Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Isaac with Hunger Smash Fitness again, and today I am talking to the one and only Travis Ortmayer, Texas Stoneman. Um, yeah, so first off, how about you tell us just kind of how you got into Strongman? What were your first ambitions and everything?
Oh man. Well, it's kind of a fun story. I'd always loved strongman. I'd always loved strength. I always obviously loved weightlifting. I was trying to be a bodybuilder for 9 years before I found strongman. The problem with bodybuilding was, well, one, I was too tall, my arms are too long, my legs are too long. Every time I started to look big, I would grow another inch, stretch all that shit. What really kind of, I don't know, probably turned me off of bodybuilding was I did 2 contests in high school, and I didn't place in either one. And they were fundraisers for the football team, high school football team. And so they brought in local judges from a Gold's Gym or something. But I mean, out of the guys up there, I was the only one who knew what all the poses were. And so I didn't place, most likely because I wasn't on the football team.
Gotcha.
So I kind of, I caught the subjective nature that is prevalent in bodybuilding. And I'm not a big fan of that shit,
Yeah.
But, it was fun. It was fun. And then for a while, I kept going with it. I met a guy named Marshall White. He went to World's Strongest Man 2009. He was in group 2. He's a friend of mine, and we met at a gym called Iron City back in Houston, Cypress, Texas. Anyway, he was a power lifter at the time. I was still wanting to bodybuild, and we started talking, and we decided to start training together. And my father trained with us at the time. So we had this little group going. And then Marshall talked me into trying a powerlifting meet. So I had a really good deadlift. My squat and my bench sucked. Obviously, I got long arms.
Yeah.
I mean, they were all right.
I'm 6'5" with a 7-something wingspan, so
it's kind of
yeah. Bench is no fun. I don't enjoy it.
Fuck bench. God, I can squat better than I bench all day long.
Yeah.
So we did this contest. It was a Longhorn Open. There was like 250 athletes there. It was massive. They had 5 platforms going all day long. And
Dang.
We had no idea what we were doing. None. We didn't have any money. So he was a 275, or I was like 225 or something. We shared a Z suit for the squat, and then we were sharing a bench shirt. So this fit great for him, and for me, it was
pointless.
Pointless.
Yeah,
I could do I remember I could do a push-up almost in my shirt, my bench shirt.
Oh man, you get some safety pins in the back to take up the slack.
I mean, we didn't know. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I further emphasize we didn't know because we both brought our boxers to the meet.
Yeah.
You can't have any kind of leg on. It was USA.
You got to wear the tighty whities.
Any leg. So we had to go. We had to share this suit going commando. The good part about it, the only good part about it was I got to go first at least. But so anyway, on squats, I had no idea that there was even a command to be had. And so I took 500 out, walked it back, squatted it, came back in, and the judge is just looking at me with his hand up, kind of like, what the fuck, man? Everybody started going, oh, well, okay. Oh, yeah, you got to wait for your commands. And I'm like, okay. So I went up 520, and I just bombed. I bombed my next 2 lifts. So in that particular meet, there were so many people that weren't allowed to continue. If you bombed out, that was it. You were done.
Oh, man.
We were told. Maybe that's not the truth, because I've seen other meets where that's not the case.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of them, and it seems like usually even if you bomb out the first, they'll let you do bench and deadlift usually. But
I mean, that would have been cool, but
yeah, I wonder if it depends on the federation too. But
well, I think even with USAPL, I've seen people continue on.
Okay.
I think records don't count, but totals count. I think if you're on a record, you can't bomb anything.
So your novice meet is a 0.
It was a 0, yeah. And then
0.
Marshall did the same thing. He kept taking a step. Every time he'd come up, he'd take a step. He'd get off balance, he'd take a step. Like, God damn it. So there we were, $250 in with, federation and then signups and the travel and it was just shit. I was like, God, this bodybuilding sucks. Now this sucks. And I remember thinking, I was going to school full time and I was working. I was waiting tables almost full time, probably 35 hours a week. And I remember thinking, my whole life has been wrapped around weightlifting. Like literally, I wouldn't work on Saturdays because that was squat day. And I knew after squats, I wasn't going to be able to run around waiting tables. So that was my life. That's how I built it. Yeah. So I remember thinking, maybe I'll put weightlifting on the back burner for a little while. I'll focus on school. I'll work real hard. I'll make some money, save up, get a nice leap forward, step ahead in life. And then, and that's kind of when it was like the hand of God was coming down and saying, nope, I got something for you. I got something really good for you. And Mitchell came to me one day, he says, I'm going to do a strongman contest. I remember looking at him saying, you like those guys on TV? You will never be that strong. What are you, crazy? Freaks. Nevertheless, he signed up and did Texas Strongest Man. And it was 5 hours straight north of us, right on the border of Texas and Oklahoma.
Okay.
Nice and hot on August 2nd. And it was on a blacktop parking lot outside of a bank. But I remember the whole way up there, Marshall just kept kind of saying every now and then, he's like, man, I don't want to finish last. I just don't want to finish last. I'm like, you know what? I'm coming with you.
That was my goal too.
We're going to make sure you do all right. Because at this point, I hadn't signed up or anything. I was just going to help him.
Right.
And so we get there. And we're talking to the promoter. Marshall's putting his name down, signing the waiver and all that stuff. And the promoter looks at me and goes, hey, you're here. Why don't you just sign up? I was like, okay, why not? I'll give it a shot.
So were you still 220 at the time?
I was 227.
Okay, wow.
227 at this. I could have gone into the lightweight category, but I wanted to go against Marshall. So we went ahead. And Marshall looks up and goes, man, I'm glad you signed up because now, at least now I know I won't take last. Real confidence builder. I had no idea I had a competitive bone in my body until those words were spoken. There's a couple lines in my life that changed it, and I can remember what a lot of them are. That was one of them. I was like, I'm gonna fucking annihilate you. That's it.
Lit that fire.
He woke the demon. He woke the beast.
Yeah.
But we competed the next day, and dude, it changed my life. I had so much fun. I loved every minute of it. I loved the scorching asphalt and the blazing sun and the farmer's handles being so hot they almost ripped your skin off just blistering it. It was so much fun. I remember dreaming of the way the farmers felt and the way the tire felt and the way the tacky smelled. I dreamt about it every night for 6 months after that. It changed my life. That was the hand of God I was talking about that came down and said, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're going to take school, you're going to take work, and you're going to throw that shit away. You're going into this. You're going to have a nice, productive life. And
Well, I mean, you have, world records and everything backing you up saying that it was a good course of action to take.
I guess, I followed my heart. I went full bore and completely dove in head first. And just for the record, I beat Marshall's ass that day.
You didn't come in last.
And then I beat him for 10 years after that. He finally beat me at my last competition before I took that hiatus.
Yeah.
He finally got on me.
Wow. Yeah, that's that's kind of been my experience too, because I did one powerlifting meet and I helped out at a couple others. And I was like, this is boring, first of all. Like, you're sitting around forever, waiting for all the competitors to go and everything. And then, yeah, same thing. I went to the one strongman competition kind of on a whim, kind of the same deal. And I was like, this is way better. Everyone's laughing and joking and eating Skittles on the sideline and, have cookies, and everyone's like sitting there cheering each other on instead of like sitting there grumbling, glaring at each other.
That was the other thing. The guys there were so helpful. I'd never heard of Tacky.
Yeah.
Get what it was. Guy let me use it. Oh yeah, they're giving us tips.
Well, I'd never picked up an Atlas stone before the meet, and so when we went and it was a stone to shoulder, and
oh man,
in the novice class, I mean the heaviest stone that they had us do I think was like 200 or something like that, and so it was 4 stones, then the last stone you do for reps.
Okay.
And I was like, I have no clue how to pick these up or anything. And so several of the guys came over and showed me, some tips and tricks on how to pick it up and everything. And I was like, oh, okay, this is nice. Like, I can do this.
That's the way strongman is, man. We all want to beat each other at our best.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's no fun to crush a guy because he's injured.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you don't get to take his soul like that.
Yeah, there's that 60 seconds where you're going head to head where you're just trying to obliterate the other guy. And then as soon as you're done, you're cheering on everyone else. And
exactly.
Yeah. So I loved it. I loved the camaraderie and everything, made a ton of friends at it. And I was like, wow, none of the powerlifting meets I went to were this way.
I got a theory as to why strongman's a little different. It takes a special breed of insanity or certain screws that are loose or probably falling out. It takes a certain kind of crazy. And if you're that kind of crazy, I know what it takes to be that kind of crazy. And I've already got respect for you just for coming out.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah. But, oh man. So, yeah. So you're known as the Texas Stoneman. And obviously you've got multiple world records in the Atlas stones and everything else. Why was that the event that you just, I don't know, it seems like you're drawn to? Everything you look up about Travis Ortmayer is always about Atlas stones. Well,
I was the first man to load a 500-pound stone over 48 inches. So I broke that 500-pound barrier. I had a lot of other world records. I had the heaviest stone series for decades.
Yeah.
I think maybe Rano Heinla broke that record. I can't verify that. I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's the heaviest 5-stone series.
Right.
But I don't think anybody's touched my 5-stone series in training. Of course, I never actually finished it inside of a minute. But it was 300, 330, 400, 460, 520. And those were from 6 feet down to 4 feet. So,
wow. That's the heaviest stone I've ever attempted was one of my buddies had a 370. And so I did, a mini series of, I think it was 280 up to 370 or something. Kind of the same thing. I think the tallest platform we started was 56 inches. No, 60 inches. And then it went down to 40, because I think there were 2-inch steps that he had. Gotcha. And the 370 was actually, the first time I touched it, I couldn't even budge it off the ground. And then switched my grip a little bit, and it actually moved really easily. And then, a couple days later, went in and did it for 2 reps over a 52-inch bar. And so I was like, nice. Oh, okay, this is it's
nice. There's a big learning curve.
Yeah, there's a huge learning curve with Atlas stones, and it's fun, but there's a lot of technique and everything. But it seems like once you get that down, it's easier than it looks, but it's still a beast. Atlas stones will make or break you, it seems like.
That's why it's fun. That's why it's a test of manhood, and it's kind of been bastardized because people there's some crazy strong tacky out there now, and then they just load themselves up, and it's almost like cheating. You know, it's like
I know.
the tacky I was using was not like that. When I loaded my 520, it was with the old Ray-Ban Harpix handball glue. It wasn't this super grip stuff like the Spider Tack and the Elite. And Cerberus has got some really good grades, but you know, if you're going to use it, every time I put a video up, people are like, "Oh, and he did that tacky-less." I'm like, no, I'm using some tacky. You just can't see it because I don't have a glob of it all over my freaking arm. You know?
I know. Well, I know because when I first, I haven't trained stones very much, just because, especially right now, I don't have access to them. But I know when I was training them, I was trying to do them, once every couple weeks or so at least, just to work on my technique. And I tried taping my forearms first. And that was miserable because then it'd catch on the tape and it'd rip it down and it'd create like multiple tourniquets on your forearm. And then I saw that you posted a video there. You're like, don't wear sleeves, don't tape it, just go bare skin. And so then I started doing it bare skin. I was like, oh, this is actually way easier. Like,
but I'm always for bare skin. I think it's a test of manhood. That's part of the mark of the brotherhood, is to have those scars.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? You can look at a guy and say, oh, all right, I know what that rash is. I know what that is. It's but I hate to admit, in the Houston heat and humidity, I would sweat so freaking bad during the summer that I finally broke down and tried some duct tape.
Yeah.
And it actually worked really freaking well.
Okay.
I'm kind of disgusted with myself to ever admit that, but I'm not going to lie about it. I use tape on my forearms.
Yeah.
Sacrilegious.
Well, up in Washington, we don't have that excuse. It doesn't get that
if
hot.
It's dry or if it's cool, you don't need to worry about it. You just go like a man. Put a little bit back, enough to stick. Not this of shit where you're just basically cheating. It's like,
yeah. Oh man.
But what I was saying earlier about those lines, those words that change your life, those sentences at the right time. Marshall obviously said one about getting me fired up to compete. I think the stone training for me really changed one particular day when I was doing my normal stone series. I just picked it up from a guy who made them, and I had to drive all the way back up to Denison where that contest was, 6 hours away, to go pick them up and drive them back, because that's how it was back in the day.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm going through this set, and everybody gets to the last stone and they step back, take a breath, and they start fucking with their tack shit. I was about to do that because I just seen it. That's just it just was second nature. And the guy I was training with, a guy named Jim Glassman, who was he was tough. He trained at Westside for a bit, and then he brought that mentality, which just worked for me. And I remember going on, it was a 400-pound stone. Not many people were doing a 400-pound stone, even in the pros in that day.
Yeah.
And I was about to step up and re-tack, and he just says the most simple thing. He says, don't think, just do it. But it hit me at the right, like brain waves matched with his tone. And it just resonated and it stuck. And I grabbed it and I loaded it and was like, oh shit.
that was easy.
Other crap, just grab them and go. And then I changed the game doing that, because I don't think anybody was really just putting one up and hitting the next.
Yeah.
And moving as fast as I was, until I went through and I kind of just changed it all. Took the King of Stones title away from Magnus Samuelsson.
Yeah, I know.
My hero. He's a King of Stones. I thought he was just fucking amazing.
Yeah,
we had Ifs 2005, and I had to go. Unfortunately, I had to go right after Jeff Dolan, who had caught his finger in the ring. Ripped a chunk off. And while I'm going out there and they're resetting the stones, I'm looking for his fingertip.
Yeah.
You think about shit getting in your head before an event, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure if I really want to do this.
Hope I don't step on it or something.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I go through it, and then Magnus goes right after me and didn't beat me. So that was.
Hey, there you go.
took it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to do it, to take it from your hero, you know, like that, just that was one of my favorite moments in sport.
Man. That's awesome. Man. So with your with all your prep for Mammoth Strength Challenge, I was noticing that you're doing a lot of deadlift stuff with cables and bands and everything. And I guess like I have an idea for why you would want to work the eccentric and all that sort of stuff. But I guess what would be your rationalization for training that way?
Well, the way I had set this program up, excuse me, I set the eccentrics up. I really started using that machine about 2 years ago. Then I ripped my shoulder, so it took a lot of time away from me. And then last summer I started using, I did a full month of this crazy eccentric, then isodynamic, and then, you know, cluster sets. It was a brutal month of training, but it set me up for some of the best strength gains I've ever had in my life. I mean, all of a sudden, my deadlift is 50 pounds over my best ever in training. You know, it's not my best from in a competition, but I pulled 851 last August, and my best in training up to that point was 805.
Man.
So started making these huge leaps forward with just basic strength, base strength.
Right.
You know, then I got into training for America's Strongest Man. So eccentrics, when you're doing contest prep, I wouldn't recommend it right before contest prep. And I actually was not prepping for this contest in particular until about a couple weeks ago. I didn't think, you know, I had some other stuff going on. I had an injury that I was kind of working through. I didn't know if I was going to be ready. So I just started doing this off-season prep. And the way that eccentric worked for me this past summer, I was going to use that at the beginning of the year and then load it up for late spring and early summer.
Okay.
So when you're throwing in those kind of eccentrics, especially when they're fucking heavy enough that the next week everything feels just shitty.
Yeah.
I mean, I go through my whole routine the next week and nothing wants to work right. It takes me a whole to get over the eccentrics.
Yeah.
But it builds durability. It builds your neural connections, motor units, all that stuff. It really increases your weight capacity.
Okay.
You know, I'm putting like 850 on the negative deadlift and doing two at a really controlled rate, like a 6 count negative. And when you do that, there's a couple things that happens. One, if you keep your mind in the muscle, you can really feel every portion of the lift, and you can feel when things spasm or fire or let up or whatever, when it switches from one group to the other group. And you pay attention to that. You start stressing the shit out of those groups, and you're doing this insane time under tension. Now that some of the research that I've read is it stimulates satellite cells to become new muscle cells. You're actually building new muscle fibers. The research may be different in 5 years. We don't know, but that's cool. I mean,
theoretically, yeah, it sounds fantastic.
But it stimulates the hell out of your tendons for growth and resiliency. And so if you're kind of hitting a plateau, a lot of times it's because your brain doesn't want to put out the energy, the fire, as many muscle fibers as it can, because it's worried about injury. It's always looking out. So if you don't have the tendons or the ligaments or the joint structure, the stability to withstand new pressures, it's going to hold you back. And that's one reason why guys hit plateaus. It's probably a later in the career type of plateau that is rather than an early in the career type thing.
I can see that.
Because you're looking at joint integrity and structural integrity of the body. Yeah. So this beefs it up, but the problem is tendons take months to grow, which is why you see that effect happen months later from all the eccentric work now. So
Interesting.
Program it the way I do.
Yeah. And that's interesting because you're talking about kind of the brain body connection a little bit. I know because for a long time I got stuck on a 595 deadlift. I could do 595 and rip it off the floor, no sweat. As soon as I put 600 on, it'd go like an inch and it'd just stall out. And one of my buddies was like, "Oh, well, you start doing snatch grip banded deadlifts, and then just work on that power all the way through the pole, basically."
That sounds awful.
It sucks. Yeah.
I think
And so we were doing like five by fives with 515 or something like that with the banded snatch grip deadlift. And it was interesting because I did that for about 3 weeks. And then I tried a max deadlift after that, and I got 615 1 week, and then the next week was like 625, and the next week was 645, and then all the gyms closed down in Washington. So, but it was like, oh, like as soon as I broke past that barrier, because right before that, I'd gotten 585 for 4 reps, but then like I can't budge 600, and it was like as soon as something connected, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, now I can just throw on like 50 more pounds onto my deadlift.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I was like, this is a fantastic breakthrough. I love this.
Like, so it must have my guess is it probably, one, worked the shit out of your hamstrings, and two, it really made you brace hard your core. So there you've got 2 factors in there. You got the hamstrings, which may have been weak, now strong, and then your limiting factor of your brain not wanting to push through a core that's not stable.
Yeah,
moving, that is one of the quickest ways to shut down neural drive.
Yeah, I know. Well, especially with snatch grip, like it's just awkward and you're way out there and everything, and then when you're throwing the bands on there and it's just getting heavier, you know, the higher you go. And I'm, like I said, I'm 6'5", and so when I'm doing snatch grip, that bar goes way up off the ground. So
it teaches you to keep driving through with a stall.
Yeah, that's true.
It's pulling against you. I like bands. I should say I hate bands, but I love them for the same reason.
Right.
They want to pull you back down. It's harder than chains. Chains just, I can kind of go through chains, but bands are like, fuck you, I'm going to fight you the whole way.
The one time I like using chains is the old gym right before we moved and everything. They had a cambered bar, and I loved loading that up and then putting, you know, like 50 pounds of chains on the end or whatever. Because on the camber, then if you come out of your groove at all, those chains will start to whip from side to side and pull you over pretty quickly. And so I felt that my squat started going up really well with that when I started doing that, because it actually built like, okay, I have to stay in this groove when I'm squatting then.
That's awesome.
But it sucks because like as soon as you start to shift forward or back or anything, those chains will whip, and especially on the cambered bar. Safety squat bar, you feel it a little bit, but on the cambered bar in particular,
camber's going to swing.
Like,
it swings enough on its own. Shit.
Yeah. So that was an interesting experience, but
I actually I may try that. I got, after this contest, I got a few things that I've been trying to come up with, some new stuff, some different ways of doing.
Hey, there you go.
Concentric overload kind of stuff. Partials. Partials is another way to overload the CNS and get it used to heavy weight.
Yeah. I haven't done as much with partials. What all do you train partials on? Like
in this current routine, I've got 1 week of negatives. I got another week that's light, and then a week of partial concentric focus, and then another week that's light.
So like half squats, you mean, or
it would be like bottom position. Like I did a bottom position chain suspended squat. So it was the bar probably traveled the full range of motion, but the way you have to get under it, I don't think I had my hips technically below my knees. I think they were a little high. I was just kind of good morning under it, just trying to work my way into position. It's not easy.
That sounds miserable.
To start there. Yeah, it's fucking tough. But that's one thing. That's one thing. I was going to do some high box squats the next time. I was going to try, partial deadlifts are a good one.
Yeah.
Like that. Maybe reverse band stuff.
Interesting. I'll have to throw some of those in once once everything gets back into full swing.
The thing, I've been training almost 30 years. I got to throw every new trick at it I can find, man.
Yeah.
Body's like, hey, you know, I'm used to this shit, man. I'm used to this.
Yeah, I know, right?
Better get smart.
Yeah, no, I've got about 8-ish off and on years, so not much at all. But and for most of that was just kind of goofing.
Well, how old are you now?
I just turned 30. I'm a got late into the game. So
okay, now that's plenty of time, man. That's plenty of time. Shoot.
Oh yeah.
I started at 11, and I'm not really sure that I would suggest that to anybody, especially when you're doing it on your own and you have the intensity that I had, where I just, if it's not, I'm gonna fight it until it does. I'm not gonna back off and do it smart. I'm just gonna charge head first at it.
I can see that,
but it probably set me up for some of the injuries I've got now.
Yeah, that was another thing that I wanted to ask you about, because you've had multiple injuries, from your shoulder to dropping a frame on your foot to all sorts of stuff, it seems like.
Yeah, that frame, that was at the Arnold going up the ramp. I took a step and it would catch your heel. So it was 890 pounds or whatever, and it caught my heel as I was walking up the ramp. I had to pick it back up, and I finished, but it sucked. It hurt.
Yeah.
God, man, if I went through the list of injuries, I could start. So, broke my left foot. I guess technically broke it. I tore a tendon off the side, and it took a chunk of the bone with it. So, I mean, I guess I'd call that a break.
Yeah.
It certainly didn't work. Let me put it that way.
Did they surgically reattach it, or?
Oh no, it's still
still floating. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one that I didn't reattach. And it still gives me a little bit of trouble. I've got some weakness in that ankle that I'm trying to work on. But then you work your way up. I mean, I've torn part of my calf. I've torn both hamstrings multiple times. Torn my right quad. Just 5 days out from the 2012 Arnold. And people don't know all about this. I don't tell all of my injuries, but if you look closely, could see my leg was still kind of black. It bled like crazy. I've herniated discs, I think, a couple times. Didn't have an MRI to confirm it, but I knew after the Arnold in 2007, I strained the shit out of my back. And then I went back into training too soon, and I felt this kind of hit when I caught an axle on my shoulders, and then I dropped it, and I felt fire go around my hips and down both legs. And I was like, oh shit, this isn't fun. And I was stuck in my bed for 3 days after that. And I had to take a handful of Advil to get up. That one sucked. And
I could see that.
I competed about a month and a half later because I had to qualify for nationals.
Right.
And I beat Brian Shaw with a broken back.
I think I remember that, yeah.
But I mean, hell, after that, I've tweaked muscles. I've torn my bicep off. I had to have that surgically reattached. I tore my rotator cuff. Had to have that reattached. That was cool. They drill these little anchors into your bone, then put stitches through the tendon to pull it down. And apparently that's a career-ending injury. But
yeah, I was wondering because a lot of times when they have stuff like that, you'll have restricted range of motion. You can't reach all the way overhead. Do you have full range of motion, or pretty close? Yeah. There you go.
It's as good as the other side. I've got really.
Yeah, that's pretty equal. Yeah.
It's actually, it is the best feeling joint I have in my body.
There you go.
Go figure, man.
Hang on.
But after that, I've got about half of this pec torn off and about a quarter of this pec torn off. I didn't have those attached.
Oh, man.
Off 2008, I had just told Champions League that I was good to go to their competition in Holland. And Holland is the guy who runs Champions League. He's Dutch, so that's his baby. That's his big show.
Yeah.
So I had just told him, and he sent me the ticket. The next day, I tore the freaking tendon off. I'm like, well, shit. 12 days later, I had to go and compete. I tied for second on that one. But then 2 weeks after that was Madison Square Garden. I was going up against Derek Poundstone. So I beat him. I won that show. And then the next weekend was the first Fortissimus. So I'm going through these brutal ass shows with half a pec and an arm that doesn't want to work. You know?
They just like shoot it up with a lidocaine or something before
they just grin and bear it.
Yeah.
I got a pretty high pain tolerance.
Yeah.
I wish that I could have numbed my foot. That's the one I really wish I could have.
Yeah.
That one. I mean, the next day, you know, I was Worlds 2010. I broke it on the log press the first day. And then the second day, after I had all that time for it to swell up and start hurting, was an 800-pound frame carry first event. Crap, man. So I picked it up. And I remember I have a video kind of straight on, and you can see the limp. 800-pound frame in my hands. And I still beat a couple guys, Poundstone being one of them. I love to rub that in his face.
Oh, man. So if you had advice for anyone coming back from injury, what would be your advice? Other than, you know, grit your teeth and just bear it.
Well, understand that it's going to suck. Don't push the joint past its comfort. You push it into pain, but not through pain. So a perfect example was my shoulder. At first, you can't move it. It's completely immobilized. And then you're supposed to have somebody else start to passively move it after 3 weeks. So basically, I sat for a month without being able to really do any movement in my shoulder. Anytime I'd let it hang, I would just hang it, or I'd put my hand in my pocket because I couldn't stand the damn brace thing, whatever it is.
Okay. Yeah.
I couldn't stand that very long. I did that for the first couple weeks, and then I just let it hang. But when it came to moving it, having somebody else move it, or just me moving it myself, I started out like, let's get this thing going. Let's get this fucking range of motion back. And that hurt. That sucked. The woman who owns the gym that I train at, American Iron here in Reno, she's in surgery. So she's like, stop being stupid. Stop being. She's like, I did the same thing. You're just going to set yourself back. Here's what you got to do. You move till it stops you from moving. And then you go a little bit further the next time. And then you go just a tad further the next time. But if it starts to hurt too much, you just stop. You don't push. And you will. So in the immediate, pushing hard gets you here. Pushing soft gets you here. But if you pushing hard, you're going to end up back here. And those steps are going to end up getting you way ahead. And that's what I did. So if somebody's rehabbing something, don't be too aggressive with it. Just understand that it needs time, that it needs proper care, and it really needs belief.
Yeah.
The belief that you can get back. Because like they said, this was never going to be as strong. It was going to be a career-ending thing. The doctor, the surgeon, he's a badass. He said it won't be as strong as the other one. And he didn't want to say it's a career-ending thing. Other people did. But he didn't want to say that. But it was kind of like, hey, you know, this is going to be delicate. Be careful. So a lot of people would have turned it in. Yeah. But if you give the body the means, it will always heal. You have to give it the means. And that means time. That means care. That means the appropriate, you know, physical therapy. And then thankfully, I got exosome injections in this one, which exosomes are kind of like stem cells, but a little better.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably why it healed so much faster. It took me about 9 or 10 months before I could start even trying to push heavy again.
Yeah.
Most people are a year to 16 months. So, you know, I think that helps. I think
they ever actually start pushing with it again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't like to tell the surgeon, but the surgeon actually trains at the gym that I train at. So he was very adamant, like, hey, you know, move it. Not yet. Couple more weeks. Stop that. I'm like, okay, man. You know, I started out light, started out easy, but, you know, you have to believe that it's going to come back. Because when I first tried to move it on my own. I remember putting my arm up on the crossbar for a yoke and then just sliding my hand off, and I could not hold it. I could not stop it from falling. But I remember the next week, you know, I did the same thing, and it was like a slower fall. And then I remember after like 3 or 4 weeks, I think 3 weeks, I could pull it off and shake uncontrollably, but I held it there.
Yeah.
So it's massive progress. And that's just like, it's so disheartening because, you know, I pressed 420 pounds on an axle overhead, you know, but right now I can't even lift my own damn arm. So it's a mountain to freaking climb. But, you know, it's doable. The belief is everything. That's the most important part.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know I was listening to a podcast, Iron Radio, a while back with Phil Stevens and everything. And Phil Stevens is a power lifter, and he was born with bad hips, basically. And so he finally had a hip replacement now that he's about 40 years old. And he was talking about it and how I think he's the first person to squat 700 pounds on an artificial hip or something like that. Something ridiculous. And he was talking about it too. And he was like, honestly, he's like, yeah, it took me, you know, 2.5 years or whatever to build back up to this point. But he was like, when you first go back into the gym after an injury, forget all your old records and everything. It's, you know, my new record is to be able to sit down in a chair properly. You know?
That's it right there. Yeah.
Next record is to be able to sit in a chair with a bar on my back and nothing else, you know.
That's exactly it.
And just baby steps.
You got post-injury PRs, post-surgery PR, whatever. Yeah. You make a whole new list of goals. But that's another key thing right there, what he's saying. So one is the belief, but to aid in that belief is goal setting.
Yeah.
Little goals, some wins, little wins. And if you get used to winning, you keep on freaking winning.
Yeah.
One of the things I tell all my clients in my coaching, you know, we try to set up 5 daily wins. And it doesn't have to be anything big, but this is the most basic part of the mindset that I do with my coaching. You just like dishes, making your bed, getting all your meals in, you know, getting to the gym every day, whatever. You come up with 5 and you try to knock those out every day. So, and you call them wins. So you get used to winning. Yeah. And if you're used to winning, you get better at winning. And if you get better at winning, you start beating people and winning big shit. It starts at the bottom. It starts with easy stuff, and you just have to get used to it because you've got to build that momentum somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. Yeah, because that's kind of that's kind of the motto of my channel is improve 1%. You try and pick one thing every day and you improve it 1%. And so you're doing these minor improvements every day. And then, you know,
exactly
over a year, you're 360% better, you know? Yeah. And so it's like,
exactly.
But if you try and set out January 1st and improve 360%,
you're doomed for failure.
You're going to fall flat on your face and give up, you know? So you got to set these little goals. And that's actually, it's something that I first heard because I was in the military for a while. And so growing up, I always did body weight stuff and then did the military, and I was in training with the SEALs for a while. And that was something that they talked about every now and then, you're not setting out to be the best first day. You're trying to make these minor improvements every day. You're just trying to get just a little bit better. And then before you know it, you know, a 6-man team of the SEALs can beat, you know, almost anybody else out there. And it's
the SEALs, they have a great mindset about them. They've got some great techniques for that shit.
Yeah.
Down, it's real simple. You don't improve. Yeah, like what you're saying, 1%. That's it.
Yeah. And it makes sense too. Like if when you think about it, you're like, okay, yeah, like I can do this. I can change this one little thing. And then before you know it, like you're miles ahead of where you were. So
exactly. And
awesome.
then you do it in a way that makes it a lot more solid, so to speak. It means you've learned the lessons you needed to learn so that you're not jumping ahead and having holes in your foundation.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the same thing with training. You know, if you try to jump too far with training, maybe you can hit that 600 squat, but maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just make sure that you got all your bases covered and there's no injury, because we can do that in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. We'll hit it then. And then we'll, you know, and like you're saying with training, you improve 5 pounds. Hell, if you improve 5 pounds a week, I mean, that's 260 pounds in a year. That's a pretty damn improvement.
That's I wish I could improve that much, because I'd be at 1,000-pound deadlift in no time at all.
Yeah, no shit. I think
would.
I've improved 50 pounds on my deadlift. God, well, I mean, if we count it all, it's taken me 12 years. 12 years. Of course, I got up and then I fell all the way fucking down and had to but you know.
yeah, man. So so what are your goals moving forward? I mean, you're not quite at master's age yet, so I
don't even want to know, but I don't want to hear about that shit. No, bunch of old man. No way.
All right.
You know, okay, so there's a couple things that I've been thinking lately. You know, one is I'm at that borderline master's age. I'll be 40 in August, but I feel like I'm 25. You know, I put on a little bit more weight recently, and I definitely feel it in my knees and hips and feet. But
big creak in the morning now.
When I adjust, I'll balance back out. I drop down to 315 again. I'll be fine. You know, but you know, there's that handicap of, oh, you're at master's age, and then there's the other handicap of, well, with your history and where you've been, it's like, no, man, fuck you.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you're saying with my history. Yeah, okay, because I went all the fucking way down.
Yeah,
way far back. But with my history, we're saying, okay, you've improved this much, but I'm competing against guys that are here. I don't want to be here. I want to be here with these guys. That's where I'm going. This doesn't mean anything to me here. I couldn't care less where I came from, because I still need to be up here with these fucking guys. That's what I'm going
I understand that.
So to talk about goals, I'm still wanting to be the best in the world. That's it.
Yeah. Are you shooting for like World's Strongest Man this year?
Absolutely.
Or?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah, I was lined up for Giants Live last year, and then it got canceled. So I'm fairly confident I would have qualified at that show. I guess we just have to.
I know. Last year threw everybody for a loop, but
yeah.
Cool. Well, that sounds fun though. Do you have any like lift goals or anything? Like you want to hit 1,000-pound deadlift before you retire? Or?
You know, I wrote a list of goals back in 2003, and I still have that list in a book.
There you go.
On that list was an 1,100-pound deadlift, and this is way before anybody had even hit 1,000 pounds. So now 1,100 is like a fucking reality. I still want to hit that.
Yeah.
I had that. I think it was like 800 for 5 reps on squat was one of them. You know, there's some big weights. Yeah. At the time, I wanted to load a 500+ pound Atlas stone. I checked that one off.
Hey, you can shoot for a 650 now, or
660 would be a 300 kilo mark. That's what I'd like.
Yeah, because I think Tom just did. Was it 300?
Somewhere in like the 620s or 630s, something like that.
Something like that. It was just under, I think, but
yeah. He went for the 300 kilo mark, but it was right before Worlds, and he said it didn't feel right, so I think he just put it on.
That's right. Yeah.
So the 300 kilo mark is still open, and I've got a 600 pounder. I've got the first ever 600 pounder. Steve Slater made it for me in 2008, and 2009 I got it to my lap. I couldn't pull it in my lap because it's a mean bitch, and it will just laugh when you try and do something.
How big is the diameter on that? That it's like
21 and a half inches, but it's 300 pounds of lead. It's a lead cannonball in the middle with a 4-inch shell of concrete.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, man.
That's pretty legit, actually.
It's cool. I think he started talking to some offshore oil rig guys from Denmark to figure out some serious high strength concrete. Found some that was like, figured out how to make it 18,000 PSI, something like that.
Oh my goodness.
Plater's a smart guy, man. His stones are legit.
I mean, well, he's definitely set the standard as far as stones go, you know.
Absolutely.
He's made
logs and stones.
Yeah. But man, that's crazy. I'd love to even find a gym somewhere around here that has like a 400-pound stone for me to try, but yeah, I can't even imagine a 600-pound stone. Just
whether the concrete was dense enough that the stones, the rocks that were in it, floated up. So you see a few extra rocks in the concrete itself. The pebbles, they floated to the top a little bit. So it's nasty, man. It's mean. I think I got a pretty good shot at loading it because I'd done stones one time since my shoulder surgery. And then the second time I did it, which was several months later, I pulled my 520 into my lap 3 different times. I couldn't get it out of my lap because I was just so untrained on that explosive part. But I think that boded well for the fact that if I could move a 520 basically without any training, I got a good shot at that 600.
I think so. I think you could go for it.
The second man to break the 600-pound barrier doesn't sound as good as the first man. You know,
it's still impressive, but
it's cool, but it's like, you know, everyone's going to remember Eddie Hall's 500-kilo deadlift. And then there was that guy that beat it by 1 fucking kilo.
I know.
It was amazing. I'm not going to take that away from it. It's a huge lift. That's fucking awesome. But 1 kilo, come on, man.
I know. I know. I feel like that whole thing, well, now that we're kind of on that subject, actually, I feel like the whole dispute between Thor and Eddie is petty.
I feel like it was for money. I feel like the whole thing, it started out petty and it was smart and said, we can make something out of this.
Yeah. That's kind of, from everything that I've heard, like Brian Shaw and stuff talk about, and like a lot of the other guys who have actually been there with them when everything's going on, it sounds like it's for money basically.
Good on them. Hell, they're making millions.
Yeah, I mean, they're making millions. Shit. I know they're making way more money than I am. Like,
hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Did you watch that Thor versus Ward fight? Or
I've only seen a short clip of it.
Yeah, so I watched it and put a little video on my channel and stuff about it, and I was like, man, the whole time I just feel like if Ward actually wanted to, he could have just demolished Thor. Like Thor
he's fat and he's fast, and Thor left himself open a lot.
Yeah,
left himself wide open with his chin up, kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and from what I've seen with Eddie's training, that dude looks pretty savage. He obviously grew up in a freaking ghetto on the streets fighting his whole. Because he's I wouldn't want to get in the ring with that guy.
No, I mean, I wouldn't want to get in the ring with either one of them, just because, I mean, Thor's got reach on me, and I'm only 300 pounds, so he's got a bit of weight on me too. But
yeah, fair enough. He's ripped or really lean. I think you're still 340 or 350, right?
Yeah. So like, I mean, either one of them, they're gonna hurt if they make contact with you. But I feel like Eddie is, because he's fast and explosive, and and Thor's just lumbering. He's just kind of slow, and
I guess I don't know. It depends on how fast Eddie's reflexes are to get out of the way.
Yeah,
he's
that's
fast
true.
Enough to get in, but is he fast enough to get out?
yeah, that's true. One hit upside the head could change the outcome
from either one of them. That's the thing. Is a haymaker could ruin anybody's day.
Oh, I know, man. But yeah, so there's some stuff where I'm like, I wish strongmen would just be strongmen, but I know both of them, it kind of sounds like they accomplished what they wanted with the sport. And so they're moving on. They're trying to do other stuff and make money in other means.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely. And you know, it strongman, like we talked about earlier, it's a brotherhood, and there's a mutual respect. And there was always that was what it was. except in the very beginning, you had Bruce Wilhelm, who was a total asshole to everybody.
Yeah.
It's okay. It was the 70s, and they all had shit hair and these freaking little suits they had to wear. I'd be a little unhappy as well.
Yeah,
But,
I can understand that.
You know, for years there was just mutual respect, and these guys were really nice to each other and really good guys. And then you had the era that Eddie Hall kind of brought this attitude era.
Yeah.
And he has an attitude, and it's you know, it's fun. I could see how some people might find it abrasive, but it's brought a lot of attention in to the sport. It does, you know, good on him. Good on him for making something, taking it and just running with it.
Yeah, he and Oberst, I feel like both of them play a character really well. And it brings in attention, whether you love it or hate it. It makes people want to watch it. And so it's really helped the sport grow a ton.
That's
Whereas people
point.
like, you know, people like Brian Shaw or something, like, he's a great guy. People love him. He's a teddy bear. But he doesn't necessarily have that.
He's not exciting to watch. I mean, he's not,
he's not.
Brian's a great guy. And, you know,
he's not a showman.
His staying power that I respect the hell out of, because he's very even keeled. I'm fire and ice. I'm insane. I'm crazy. He is so even keeled. It's like it's completely foreign to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he does it with his life. He does it with his career. He does it with training, and it's really impressive. But when it comes to a contest, it's kind of like, okay, you know, you put a bunch of chalk on it, clapped, and chalk went everywhere, and that's pretty much the highlight of whatever's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, some people love that about Brian too, is that he's consistent. You always know exactly what he's going to bring to the table.
The dude has staying power. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can respect that. And honestly, I think the sport of strongman, it's really benefited from people like Eddie and people like Oberst and stuff. Because the previous ones that really had that sort of impact, it wasn't really until like Kaz or like John Paul Sigmarsson or something that really had kind of that.
There were a few of them that really stood out.
Yeah.
And think about it, like the guys you just mentioned also had this huge rivalry.
Right. Yeah. And
but I mean, made it a little fun.
Where it was something where like the general populace also knew about it, not just strongmen, I guess, in my opinion. But yeah. So, oh well.
They just move things forward, and they're packing stadiums over there in England. So
yeah,
but I'm sure they will again when the English government wakes up and stops shutting everything down.
I know. Yeah, everything has to open up at some point, you know. And we'll see when it does. But
yeah, I don't even want to get on the subject of government politics and coronavirus. I know. I don't even want to go there. I'd piss off a lot of people and probably make a lot of others happy. So, such a divisive topic.
I know. Oh well. So you because you have your gym out in Reno now. It's not the unit, right?
No. The unit was just. It wasn't a clever name. It was just a storage unit that we finally found a space that we could put the equipment in, pull it out and train, and then put it back away. And the people there, Linda and Steve, they were amazing people. They let us train. They watched us on the cameras inside the office. They would watch us train, or they would be out there watching us. People would come in and talk about us train. What are these crazy guys doing over here? So, you know, but the unit, it bred some hardcore guys.
Yeah.
You know, myself, Josh Thigpen, Marshall White, we all made it to World's Strongest Man. We had two other guys who were alternates that were in consideration for World's Strongest Man. So that's 5 guys for the top competition in the world. And
that's
then
pretty crazy.
My father, who I got into weightlifting at 56, I got him training strongman at 58. And then he went on to win 6 national titles and a world title. They created the over 50 category because of him He was already 60 at that time. Then when they
Yeah.
went and created the over 60 category, and he refused to compete in it because he didn't want to compete against those old weak bastards.
Nice. I can
So,
understand
yeah,
that mindset.
we had some really top guys. We had a few top amateurs there that were. It was intense. It was a boys' club, even though girls were allowed.
Yeah.
But you had to be tough, because
Yeah.
in the summer we'd work out, train 3 or 4 events, and it would be hot as shit. And I used to think it was because I was out of shape that I was throwing up after medleys. I do medleys now, and I am nowhere near as wrecked. And I would throw up, and I'm sure it was because we were having heat exhaustion or heat stroke.
Yeah.
Just dying.
100 plus degrees.
Fall over on the concrete, which would then scald your body, and then you'd roll over to the grass and throw up. And then right next door was this steakhouse. So these people sit on us. But to be fair, we were there first, and that whole parking lot was trees. They cut down every tree and built a steakhouse. So fuck those guys. That's what they get.
There's people having a dinner, and there's dudes that are half naked.
Blowing up in a ditch right next to them. Yeah. Yeah.
That's appetizing.
But that was the unit, So we would do a whole day of training, and any new person that came out would have to do what we call the Unathon. That's where they take my dad's 2003 Suburban, 2002 Suburban, big heavy thing. We'd harness it up, and they would have to drag it one lap around the storage unit, which was about 1,200 feet. And didn't matter how long they took. They could take half an hour. It didn't matter. They just
have to do it.
You just had to do it. That's all it was. It was a test of your will. I didn't care how strong people were that were coming out there. I wanted people who were strong here, that wouldn't give up and wouldn't accept less. And I think it bred insanity. It bred toughness. It bred some of the best athletes in strongman,
Man. So where are you training now then?
I'm at a place called American Iron in Reno, Nevada.
Okay.
It is, for all intents and purposes, a dream gym. It is a really nice gym. They cater to powerlifting more so than strongman, but I brought my equipment here. So now between what they had and the stuff that I brought, we got a lot of good equipment.
Nice.
We just don't have a very good spot to do stones. And that's why it's so upsetting to me. I can't train stones the way I'd like to, because it's kind of, and the mats are all folded wrong, and it just, And then I had somebody roll them into the freaking dirt a couple of weeks ago. I wanted
the stones?
They rolled my stones off of the platform that they're on into the dirt. They were trying to make room for something because they had a little parking lot contest that we did there. They were trying to make room for the spectators to sit down or something. They rolled them into the dirt. Oh my God.
How do you clean them off? I mean,
you just do them enough times that the dirt gets stuck in
the dirt
times that, I mean, you do it, you take a towel and you dust them off and you just hope for the best. But the weather here is perfect for stone loading, but the conditions that my stones are in, it's back almost as hard as it was at the storage unit, because it's just, but it's a great gym. Other than that, they've got tons of plates, tons of room, deadlift platforms. They've got like 5 monoliths or something like that. They've got a whole training hall for powerlifting, and that's where a lot of my videos are. And they've got another room. The room next door is Olympic lifting, and then field. It's got turf in it, so that kind of stuff. But and that's like half the gym. They've got 2 other big ass sections.
Dang.
It's ridiculous.
That sounds awesome.
I don't even want to think how much money they put into the equipment there. It's got to be $500,000 easy.
Oh man.
And they're buying stuff all the time. They're really good about making sure we have what we need in the way of equipment. But I wish that a couple things outside were a little better. But you can't have
You can't have it all. But oh man. Well, yeah, kind of as we're wrapping up here though, maybe because I know you do a lot of online coaching with you have a lot of online clients right now. So maybe if you want to talk about that a little bit, how much you charge and what you're looking for and all that.
Yeah, I do. I do online coaching. I have a few different ways that I go about doing that coaching. So kind of depends on how involved the athlete wants to be. I've got stuff that's a little more expensive, but it's a lot more involved. I got stuff that's a little bit more affordable. That's it's still very involved because I like to make sure that my athletes are always covered. Their questions are answered. You know, their technique is right. I want to make sure that they are actually being coached.
Right.
And I do my coaching in a way that I make sure I get back to them. I usually go through my list twice a day so that I'm answering athletes. I keep getting athletes who come to me and they say, well, I haven't heard from my coach in a week or two. And it's like, how are you doing this? Well, he emails me and I email him back. And I'm like, well, email doesn't seem to work for any of these guys. Yeah. You know, you can't wait a week or two waiting on your coach to say, well, hey, how does my form look on this? Okay, well, now I'm in the next workout and it's supposed to be heavier. And was my form shit, or should I just keep doing that? That's no good.
Yeah.
That's good. You know, or hey, I tweaked my back. What do I do? You don't want to wait 2 weeks to find an answer for that. You know what I mean? And shit happens, you know, even with the best laid program, injuries happen. So you got to be there for your guys.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things that, one of my biggest things, I guess, is making sure that communication is there.
Nice. Do you do like nutrition and everything as well? Or
I do some nutrition. I do nutrition, programming, mindset, technique work, video coaching, and then that constant dialogue where we've got communication going. Some of my plans, we do a phone call every week. Some of my plans are just the texting. Like I said, it depends on how involved the athlete wants to be. But it's I've coached people from beginner all the way to elite. I've coached people who don't want to do strongman, or I've coached people who just want to be in shape. So out there wants to get in shape. I coach everyone. I love what I do. So, you know, it doesn't feel like work for me. I get to play all day. I get to play coach. Nice. I get to play athlete, and then I get to play in a competition like this weekend. You know, it's fun. It's really fun. So
that's awesome. So if people wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way is shoot me a DM on Instagram, just Travis_Ortmayer, or they can go to my website, texas-stoneman.com or travis-ortmayer.com. And I've got a contacts page on there. They can just fill that out, send me a message, and then I'll email them back. We kind of go from there.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks, man. Yeah, this has been really fun, really interesting. And,
I enjoyed it, man.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. Well, that's all for today. So, just once again, this is Travis Ortmayer that I was talking to in the interview, and just remember to always improve that 1%.
That's right, man. 1%.